Welcome to the X's and Argos film session for Game 1 on the 2022 Toronto Argonauts schedule. My name is Ben Grant. Today we're going to look at the details, that is the nuances that contribute to a play's success or failure. And there were a ton of great examples from this week's game against Montreal. We're going to focus on Shane Ray, McLeod Bethel-Thompson, Tavares McFadden, and Brandon Banks for this one. So let's start things off with Shane Ray, who might have been the most dominant defensive player on the field for the Argos this week. Ray's a terrifying defensive end because of his speed. And when you've got that elite speed, it doesn't take too much to get into a tackle's head. And that's what we see in this game here. From the sideline angle on this play, this just looks like a speed rush. But check out the little detail we've got from this tighter shot. So Ray explodes outside, and then he makes this little jab step to the inside. And this is going to cause Chris Schlugger to plant for a brief second. And that's all Ray needs, this little plant step. And now Ray just turns on the Jets, bird dogs Adams to the ground. It's a pretty impressive play, but it's that little jab step that makes it. And now we go to the next play. He's in Schlugger's head now because Schlugger knows that he knows the inside move is coming. The DNs aren't just going to speed rush outside all day long. So Schlugger's thinking about it. He just doesn't know when it's coming. And Ray senses this, and he's going to go opposite. He'll go pure speed here. So Schlugger's hesitant. He expects Ray to come inside, and so he doesn't fully commit to the outside rush, and he can barely touch him. And I want you to look at this. Look how close this play is to being a fumble. I actually thought this was the first time through. Even the first time I watched the slow motion replay, I thought this was a fumble. When I really slow it down, Harris's arm just starts coming forward when he loses his grip, but full credit to Ray here. This was really close to being a huge play in the game. It was still a pretty big one. Ray doesn't make the play on this one, but he causes just about everything that happens. So he's going to use swat and rip around the outside. Harris sees him, and Harris has seen him all night. Adams saw him before that. He starts to scramble right. He tries to step up to avoid Ray, and McManus comes in, finishes the job. McManus deserves the sack. He had a huge game, but this is Shane Ray making this play happen. McLeod Bethel-Thompson didn't have a great game, but he made some plays that remind you why his teammates love him and why you should too, for that matter. Now, this is not one of those plays. This is a mental error, and it's one that he spoke about after the game. Let me walk you through it, and this is him sort of explaining to me what he saw on this. So Montreal's showing 6. Ellis ends up taking the middle of the field. Just as a sort of aside, I love this defensive play call in the end zone. It doesn't impact this play in particular, but teams often have built-in sight adjustments. So what that means is if an inside receiver sees a linebacker blitz, they'll often adjust to a quick slant route. They'll abandon the route they had and instead go to this quick slant route to the vacated space in the middle. If Toronto were to have done that here, Ellis would be waiting, and that's the point. That's the design. Instead, Toronto has this 3-man, it's like a smash concept with a switch inside. So we've got mini hooks from Gittins Jr. and Ambles, and Phillips, he's got an inside release corner route, and that sort of facilitates this switch that we see here with Ambles. The play design is sound. It's a classic concept. It works really well against zone or man. Against zone, you're usually going to take whichever hook is in front of the deep defender. Against man, you love the corner. That's the ideal situation. And the reason we've got these mini hooks is because we're down near the goal line. You don't want the outside defenders, because there's like a finite amount of room for that, the receiver running the corner. You don't want the outside defender to be able to drift back and pick off the pass to the corner route. So this inside release from Phillips was partly so that the corner forgets about him as he goes inside, but it also forces a switch. And so now we've got him on ideally a slightly slower defender, and it opens up more space to the outside. So MBT sees that it's man right away, and he watches Phillips, who gets a great release. And knowing it's man, knowing he's going to the corner route, he just sort of tosses it gently out there for him, and it's a huge mistake. He's furious with himself as soon as he lets go of the ball, because he never checked the corner's depth. He didn't go outside in. And Montreal showed last week that they'll play their corners way off in red zone situations, ready to charge downhill. So the advantage of doing this is that you don't have to think backwards at all. You just start there, and the only direction you have to go is in. So that's what they do. He said to me in the post-game press conference, he wishes he'd gunned it right away to Gittins Jr., who might have had a chance for a touchdown here. Now, we don't know how that would have played out, but that certainly looks like a better option than what ended up happening. Now, one other detail on the play, this was ruled an interception originally, but it gets overturned on an angle that we don't have here. But full credit to Cam Phillips for not giving up on this play. He comes in and just crushes Jones, which is what leads to him being unable to secure the ball. So it ends up being third down for the Argos instead of a first down after an interception for Montreal. Boris Beatty kicks a field goal on the next play. Phillips not only bails out his quarterback and takes a pick off the stat sheet, but he just earned the Argos 3 points with that play in what would end up being a 1-point victory. This is a great run by Andrew Harris, and the entire O-line did some great blocking. But everyone is going to remember this play for Harris jumping over the safety. That's not the detail I want to focus in on, although it's pretty cool. I want to focus in on McLeod Bethel-Thompson because he makes this play. I'm going to show you this little detail here. So the key on this run is we've got a double team to the right side. So Allen and Bladek, they've got to take the D tackle. I think this is Mike Moore here. And they want to take him as far downfield as possible. And wait a second, you say, how can they have a double team on the right? Doesn't that leave the end unblocked? And doesn't Harris cut it back that way? Yes, and yes. So this is how the play is designed. And they're not really leaving the end unblocked. They're leaving the end to Bethel-Thompson. That's his man. This guy is his responsibility because his job is to contain. And so as long as Bethel-Thompson gives the contain man reason to hold his ground, then he's not going to close. Lawrence is one-on-one with Sewell here in the middle, which isn't ideal, but he does all right. But Harris doesn't see any movement on the side. He cuts it back, and the reason he's able to do so is because Bethel-Thompson did his job. We've got an end frozen in space. The play fake is good enough. Usher isn't able to get back to Harris, and Harris cuts away from Sewell, explodes upfield, and you just love this. He follows the double team downhill. You love the jump, of course. You love the O-line blocking, but it's all set up with that perfect play fake from MBT. McLeod Bethel-Thompson was hit so hard so many times in this game, but what makes you love him as a quarterback, as a leader, is that he kept getting up. And it's so discouraging for the defense to see this happen. I don't know in this play who missed their assignment. I don't know what the call was. Montreal sends 6. You got 6 blocking, so no one should get through free. If they'd had 5 blocking, so if Harris wasn't staying in, then you would leave the right contain guy. Of all the 6 guys, that's the guy you end up leaving here is the front side contain. So Richards either thinks that's what's happening here, that it's 5-man protection, or he thinks that Harris has the contain man. But neither is the case. Bladek doesn't end up with anyone, so it's just a mess in here. I don't know exactly who to point the finger at, but the point from this is that after getting hit so many times in this game, and this one was the worst of all, it didn't change the way McLeod Bethel-Thompson plays. And it does for so many other quarterbacks. They get happy feet, they rush throws, they see ghosts. We've seen this happen to hundreds of quarterbacks, not this guy. And look at this throw, like transitioning to the next one. Look at this throw to start the second half. He's already been hit a ton. He's not delivering early. Tate misses his guy on the outside. Bethel-Thompson gets drilled so hard. But he doesn't rush this throw, and he's not going to rush the next one. And now he doesn't like it. He doesn't like getting hit like this. Harris is supposed to pick up the biggest threat. He should see this threat. And he's usually great in pass protection, but he doesn't see it this time. Bethel-Thompson delivers a perfect ball, and he hops up, and it's on to the next play. How do you not want to follow a guy like this? All right, this is the play of the game. 10 seconds left in the half. Montreal ball. They're on their own 46. They're trying to get into field goal range, and this is a huge 6-point swing. It's a mistake from Trevor Harris. I have no idea what he was trying to do on this play. It's a blown play. But it's the play of the game because of Tavares McFadden. So he knows how much time's left on the clock. He knows where they are in the field. Most players want to run this all the way back, and most would try to. McFadden doesn't. He would love to run it back for a TD, no question. But he knows how much time's left on the clock. And he knows at this point here, he sees that there are too many guys that have an angle on him. He'd be able to get a few more yards, no question, but then time would expire. And so he smartly gets out of bounds. There's a second left on the clock. It's a beautiful defensive play. Beatty connects with a field goal to end the half. Massive swing. And remember, this is a 1-point victory. This is a 3-point play. Almost a 6-point play from Tavares McFadden because he's got the interception and then gives Beatty a chance for that 3-point field goal. Remember, similar situation, Ottawa, Winnipeg last week. They completely bungled it. They ran out of time to end the half. Not this team, not Tavares McFadden. Play of the game. We talked earlier about how Montreal corners like to play off in the red zone. So here we are again in the red zone, corners playing off. And for our final play of this film session, let's turn to Speedy B for a little lesson on physics. And before I get to our physics lesson, slants are a great call against this defensive alignment. It's a great route for Banks anyway, but let's get into the physics part. So Banks is 150 pounds. These other guys, not so much. Mike Jones, 190. Darius Pickett, 205. So what's harder to do when you are carrying an extra 40 or 55 pounds? Stop and start. And these are the things that Banks is best at. There's a lot of things Banks is really good at. Momentum. Reading a defender's momentum and using it to his advantage is number one. He's always going to be able to hammer on the brakes and then punch it better than the guy covering him. And that's what he does here. First man misses with a cutback. Second man can't recover. It's a touchdown for Banks. Thanks so much for tuning into this week's X's and Argos film session. My name's Ben Grant. I'll see you next time.